If you want something you don't have, you have to start doing something you're not currently doing. For a lot of people around the country, they are not on track to have a retirement that will sustain them for as long as they would like, let alone the significant majority of people who don't even have a retirement that will sustain them at all. Okay, there's too much going on in our country as far as people's planning for the future that follows a traditional path that is either outdated or never been designed to work in the favor of the individual. Pay attention to what I'm about to dive into and try to see if you can find some ways to apply it for yourself.
Today, I wanted to talk about something pretty specific, which is retirement goals for anybody. This can be whether you're 5 years, 10 years from your retirement already, or whether you are looking right now in your early teen years or adult years, looking at your 40, 50 year outlook on what your retirement goals are going to be. No matter what, you have to be able to structure your plan to fit where you are, both financially and time wise, how long you have before your retirement. And keep in mind the fact that people who have longer until their retirement have something that most of society doesn't actually tell them. You have time, and the time is what's going to be your biggest benefit. If you don't have much time, you have to do kind of the inverse of what I was always told growing up. I was always told when you're young, you can afford to take risks. You should take higher risk things to put yourself ahead because you have time to recover. That's not false, but when you have time to actually let the steady, for sure, guaranteed things make certain that you hit your milestones and goals. If you don't have much time, you can't afford to take the slow and steady route. You end up having to carry more and more risk. If your goal is to be at $1 million and you have 10 years until your retirement phase, and you're nowhere near that goal yet, you have not a penny in the bank, that $1 million is not going to be something you can achieve by the slow and steady methods. So if you were talking about somewhere where you can get 4% returns on your money over the next 10 years and you had, let's just say 20 grand to work with in the bank, you're going to have to start looking at ways that you can effectively gamble at this point. You're going to have to do such high risk stuff to turn 20 grand into $1 million in the next 10 years that nothing's going to be protected or guaranteed. It's going to be high risk. That doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just means because you have such little time to work with, you have to take so much more risk than somebody who has, let's just say, 45 years. If you want to hit that goal, same 20 grand starting, and you have 45 years to work with, you can lean much more into safer, secured things because you can afford the time. And that's the difference between what I feel like everybody told me growing up versus what the reality is. Yeah, you might have time to recover, but you're going to need bigger returns, higher risk things if you make more and more time go by where you're not getting good returns. If you have 45 years, you have a lot of time to afford making a commitment to something that is consistent, guaranteed, and you can follow through with. And you can capitalize on top of that stuff. You can have a hybrid mix. You can find a good balance there. But it's something everybody needs to keep in mind. You need to think about where your retirement goals are, how much time you have left, and start looking at the methods available to you. I love this acronym that Robert Kiyosaki uses in his book, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. It was focus. And I think this applies very much so, especially to the younger crowd, but really it's follow one course until success, right? So follow one course until success. If you do that, if you follow that one course and you don't deviate from it, as long as you've made certain that that course is going to be solidified, that it has guaranteed, then you can afford to follow that one course and focus on nothing else. I think this is something that people who have a lot of time ahead of them should really take into their heart and soul and just implement it in everything they do, is that focus. I love that acronym. Stay on top of something the whole time. The more safe, the more guaranteed you can make it, the more likely you are to be able to hit the milestone that you want to be at. Now, what you plan for your retirement goals is something entirely different. It depends on your values. It depends on where you want to be. It depends on a lot of things. your beliefs, everything. It's something I'd love to dive into and cover more in another video, so I'm planning on doing that. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the idea that, look, a lot of what society says is actually the opposite. A lot of people have a perspective that I don't agree with on that, and that's young people should be taking bigger risks. A lot of young people do that. They end up having a lot of these mishaps happen where they lose it all in the market. They dump a ton of money into something like Bitcoin and it doesn't go good for them when they bought at 60 and they drop down. Obviously, there's lots of things to take into account when you start to factor in things like FOMO, fear of missing out kind of stuff, getting into consumer hype or societal hype on different investment opportunities, things like that. When people start doing a lot of those things and taking on a lot of those risks, it can come back to bite them in the butt and it sets you back behind pretty severely. You might have been on a great course all the way for the next 10, 15 years, made a bad investment maneuver that had a little bit more risk than you probably should have taken on, and suddenly you've set yourself back 10 years. You've got to find a way to make up for that. And either that means taking on more risk or doubling down on something that's good and consistent. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's really great to sit down, look at what your retirement goals are long term, and have an idea of how you want to get there and find ways to baby steps implement it until you get to that point. It's the same thing for success in any career, that you want to say that I want to be able to start hitting these numbers in this job. I want to be able to do this type of work and have this level of success at it. Everybody always recommends look at your long-term goal, break it down into baby steps, and find the way to get there. I don't see a lot of people do that with retirement. A lot of people talk about this in the concept of taking bigger risks at first in an effort to shortcut getting to your retirement goals, hoping you can far exceed them. And it might work for some people, but if we're talking about the fact that you can ensure, you can almost guarantee that you'll hit that retirement goal by breaking it down into baby steps, finding your way to follow through and guarantee it, that I think is the most important thing people need to keep in mind, because too many people do not play a smart balance game of risk and safety, and they end up being in a position where they're really hurting as they get near retirement. But that's a whole nother argument. So thank you very much for tuning in. Hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.
Hey, thank you very much for staying tuned this long if you're still here. I really appreciate you taking that time to listen to my video and just kind of think about some of the ideas I'm putting out there. My goal for this channel is to really create a community of people who share these ideas, learn from each other, grow together, and go out and help other people with this new talent, new experience, and new idea that you've been able to cultivate with a like-minded community. So please, if you had any thoughts on this, let me know what your thoughts were down in the comments. Reach out to me. I would love to find ways to make this something that's better for you, better for me, better for everybody involved. So please feel free to give me some feedback, give me some engagement there. It's going to sound like I'm asking you a lot here and you're not getting anything out of it, but I'm hoping to start making this feel like you're getting something out of this. So thank you very much. Again, have a great day, and thank you for tuning in. Have a good one.